Happy Thanksgiving from the far side of the galaxy, I say, knowing this video will definitely not be up on Thanksgiving Day. I've had this idea in my head for a while now, but I guess now is just the time I'm finally getting to making this video. Furries as a community have a lot of hobbies. Making art is the most popular one, they also make music apparently, and they make visual novels, and I do mean a lot of visual novels. But among those hobbies is apparently playing gacha games, because there are way more furry gacha games than anyone should ought to expect. And with so many gacha games, it can be hard to figure out which one is right for you. That's why your goat is doing that for you. Presenting Fuuri's Furry Gacha Game Recommendations, or something. I haven't really worked out the title yet, I'm going without a script. The first one we'll be talking about is Tokyo Afterschool Summoners, or Housamo for short. This is actually the oldest of the games I'll be talking about today, and not even by little, it came out all the way back in 2016. To describe Housamo quickly, do you know Fate Grand Order? Think of that, but gay and furry. Its whole cast of characters are from myths and legends and stuff. We've got Behemoth, Amaterasu, Fenrir, and Surtur. But one of the things that I like most about Housamo is that it's so diverse with what it pulls from. A lot of the popular characters aren't actually in this game. For example, Zeus and Odin do exist, but they aren't obtainable. We haven't even seen proper sprites for them yet. And because of that, there's a lot of space for lesser known characters and myths to shine. For example, we have Native American mythology with Thunderbird and Wakantanka. Have you ever heard of the Ainu? One of the minorities in Japan. Well, they have characters too. Horkyu Kamui and Kimun Kamui. And even then, it takes the opportunity to incorporate things that aren't myth into its work. You know Schrodinger's cat? Well, she's in this game too as Quantum. And what about the Lovecraft mythos? Nalantotep, Cthulhu, South Ogwa, they're all here. Hell, even real people get in on this. Like, you see this dude right here? This femboy? That's Alan Turing. Yeah, the guy who broke the Enigma code in World War II and helped defeat the Nazis. Hell, even the Enigma code itself is in this game in the form of this transient right here. The implications of making Alan Turing a femboy aside, the game even takes inspirations from real-world events to influence their character writing. There's one example I like to use involving Daikoku, Mahakala, and Okuninushi. However, I already talked about that, so I'm going to reuse that clip here. And yes, I am that shameless. Like, take this guy, Daikoku. In real life, the Hindu god Shiva got turned into the Buddhist figure Mahakala, and in turn Mahakala got syncretized into Japanese Shintoism as the Shinto god Daikoku-ten. And the god Daikoku-ten himself was already syncretized with the figure Ohokuninushi. Why am I telling you this? Because Housamo actually makes use of it. In Housamo, we never truly meet Daikoku-ten because Ohokuninushi possesses the body of Daikoku-ten, referencing the fact that the two were syncretized into the same deity in real life. And he possesses that body using the power of Mahakala, referencing how the big guy got syncretized into Daikoku-ten in real life. And Mahakala himself is noted for existing across two worlds, Shangri-La and Devaloka, the worlds representing Buddhism and Hinduism respectively, since in real life, Mahakala is a deity in Buddhism and Hinduism respectively. And he's not the only character like this. Tezcatlipoca, Hephaestus, Shiva, they all have this level of effort put into them. The amount of effort put into this game's writing is genuinely breathtaking, to the point that I used to make videos about it. Housamo even makes good use of its setting, because technically it is an isekai. The entire game actually takes place in Tokyo, with a lot of the other characters and stuff literally traveling from their worlds into ours. However, then we have characters like Hakumen, who have seemingly existed across 3 different worlds before. And that's because transients don't necessarily come from different worlds, they come from a different world. It was entirely possible to cross over, and it was only upon coming to Tokyo that their identities began to split and diverge. I really do think the way Housamo uses its inspirations to build and add to its world is fantastic. It's part of what makes the writing so good. Like, let's take Ophion for example. He was a popular character who ended up dying in the main quest. However, recently he comes back, however not as Ophion, but as Demiurge. And they don't just call him Demiurge because the name is cool, they call him Demiurge because that's kind of what he is. In real world myths, there's a perfect and almighty spiritual god. However, there's also the flawed and evil material god, that being the Demiurge. So it makes sense for the Demiurge in Housamo to be a recreation of Ophion, who in the Greek myths is one of the creators of the universe. but also for the fact that he was created by the CPU in control of Housamo's app system. And then he's even evil because he wants to wipe out humanity. Like, I can't stress enough how cool it is that these myths are followed so well and incorporated damn near perfectly into Housamo's world. And all of that ties back into the central focus of the game's plot, the app, and the way it's seemingly all-powerful, capable of doing so much. And I know the main plot of the game is like neck deep into this. Right now we're on chapter 16, which is all about the futuristic world of Utopia in this Dyson Sphere colony hanging above Tokyo. But all this fantastical stuff ties back into the underlying theme and allegory of Housamo, that being what it's like to be gay. But not just gay, because it also deals with themes like asexuality, being trans, and other queer topics. I know I've already made 2 videos about this subject specifically, and I really should get to making a third. The game even gets the opportunity to tell even more in-depth and enhanced stories using its events, which are often around a certain subject or theme and give them the opportunity to introduce new characters. And due to the odd nature of Housamo's story, which I will not spoil for you, these events are kind of semi-canon in their own weird way. 2 of my favorite events being the Jiangxi Night event with Licho and the Hot Springs of Hell event with Zurong. Though you might have noticed that I spent this entire time talking about Housamo's story and writing and not, well, the gameplay. And sadly, that's for a reason. For the most part, it's your standard gacha fare. There's a hub screen, you have missions and stamina, blah blah blah, you know how it goes. The game is generous enough with its premium currency, although that doesn't count for much when the drop rates are fairly low. The real issue with the gameplay is like specifically the combat because, well, it sucks. I don't even know how to describe it, and I don't even particularly want to describe it. Imagine if someone made a turn-based sliding block puzzle. Does that sound good? No, well, to be fair, it isn't. The real draw of Housamo is the story, and Life Wonders knows this. Events are basically automated. I really don't know how you can lose fights on some of these modern events because they're basically just cutscenes. Which then brings me to Housamo's biggest issue. Know how in Yu-Gi-Oh! They have the Japanese version and the English version, and how the English version lags behind the Japanese one, like with subs and dubs of anime? If new content is released, you better be able to read Japanese or not read at all because, those are the only options. And that's not even just for events, that's also for these super important main quest chapters. Like that whole tirade I had about Demiurge and stuff, I wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for a Tumblr blog that does the translations. And the official translations aren't particularly quick either, so yeah, you're gonna have a rough time. I love Housamo to death. Loved it enough to make it like the main feature of my channel, but I would be lying if I said it was without flaws. The next gacha game I'd like to talk about has apparently become a reoccurring feature of my channel, that being XXL Wufia. Where do I begin with this one? Firstly, that it's NSFW, but it does have a safe word version you can download off the App Store. Also that it's gay, like strictly gay, to the point where there was discussion whether or not women would actually exist in this game. The actual plot of XXL Wufia is mid at best, with only a few moments that shine and stand out as something I'd call good. It's actually fairly hard for me to talk about the plot of XXL Wufia because the app is very new, like it only came out a few months ago. I can tell from the writing that the game is intended for a specific audience, because a lot of it reads like those doujinshi you see online, you know? Where the relationships and writing doesn't focus on romance and instead answers to those with like niche specific taste, if you know what I mean. Where the ethics of the situations you find yourself in are nice and loosey-goosey, pun definitely intended. The gameplay itself is fine, it's not anything I'd write home about, but it's also not bad. Far better than anything Housamo is giving, that's for sure. I've been told that the gameplay is apparently similar to New Carnival, not that I've ever played that or really know what it is, but it's what people say. The real thing that's appealing about XXL Wufia, aside from the NSFW I mean, is the drop rate. At its rarest, for limited units on the current banner, it's 1.20%, and at its highest on the standard banner, it's 3%. And that's combined with its generous pity. Not just having a guaranteed rarest on your 80th pull, but also having a gacha shop where you can just buy the limited unit you're looking for. And it practically showers you with premium currency too. From the stuff you use to make pulls to the gems you use to buy things. You will basically never run out. The next game I'd like to talk about is another one made by Life Funders, the same guys who made Housamo. If I thought of this earlier, I probably would have covered them immediately after Housamo, but hey, you don't come to me for well-playing videos, do you? From my understanding, the plot of this game is basically Dispatch if it was a gay furry gacha game. I think. This is a very bad comparison because I haven't actually played Dispatch. There's parallel world or some shit, monsters that erase you from existence. It's a whole thing I will talk about later. This game came out a few years after Housamo, and it really does show. The game just flat out looks better and runs better, and not even by a small margin. It even has a better combat system too, since it's a turn-based RPG where you have 3 skills and an assist. It has tons of buffs, debuffs, you have to manage your view power, and tons of other things that actually make the combat fairly engaging for a gacha game. It's also worth noting that at times the game does have cutscenes and full voice acting. Like literally, in the most recent event I was able to capture this. That little speaker isn't just for show, they're voicing the whole piece of dialogue. All the characters are animated and their clothes get destroyed as they lose more HP, and the animation for their third skills are always amazing. However, at this point, you might be noticing something. The fact that, well, like, none of this is in English. And yeah, that's Livehero's biggest problem. They said they translated it like 2 years ago. However, at this point, the only things that's in English is the fucking title screen. Livehero's gameplay is fun, I'm sure its story is good too. Goddamn shame I can't read literally any of it. Do you realize how annoying it is to be playing a game for 2 years without being able to read anything? Is the story actually like Dispatch? I don't know. I haven't fucking read it. I know there are fan translations online somewhere, which is something, I guess. And at this point, who knows when Life Funders will actually translate this thing, so let's just move on. The next gacha game we'll be talking about will be Dislyte. Dislyte is the odd horse here, because instead of being made as a furry game, it appears to be one that has sort of shifted to a new market. At the start, Dislyte was your standard gacha game. It had husbandos, it had waifus, with the odd furry thrown in here and there. And then Lilith Games released this online guy, Javid, and they realized that, wow, these furries will buy anything. So then they released Gen Q. Recently, they had an entire event that was all about furries. And even more recently, like, well, maybe not as this video goes live, they released another super duper exclusive furry. Well, scaly actually. And recently, leaks showed that one of the more popular minor characters, Freddy, is getting a variant. So yeah, they definitely know what they're doing. And if they didn't, just look at this promo art they commissioned. So Dislyte appears to be the most mixed game we've got. We have husbandos, we have waifus, furry husbandos, and even the ever-elusive furry waifus. The general plot of the game is that one day, these giant things called miracles descended from the heavens, along with Miramons. But along with those monsters, some people awaken to divine powers, awaken with the energy of gods, becoming espers. Don't be mistaken, this isn't like FGO and certainly not like Housamo. Any real-world myths and inspirations are loose and used mostly for design and not character. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. I vibe with the punk and straight aesthetic. It's like a dollar store version of The World Ends With You. It's got varying modes, online features, decent battle system, just the whole shebang of what you really need for a gacha game you'll be playing for a long time. While I won't say any of it is really good enough to impress me, the fact that I can get good enough all in one place is very nice. Now I'd like to do what I'm going to call honorable mentions for games that aren't really furry but definitely have a contingent of either furry characters or a place in the community. The first one I'll be mentioning is Setorika. It has a few furry characters you've probably seen before like Law, and one of its main artists is Null Ghost, who you've probably seen on Twitter. Then we have Zenless Zone Zero, which is hard carried by Von Lycon and Ben Bigger, but we'll ignore that. I made a whole video on it back in the day, you should check it out. Also, shout out to Petite Planet, Whale vs. Animal Crossing game. It's not out yet, but I will be playing. In conclusion, if story matters to you most, pick Housamo. If you like games that look pretty, pick Livehero. If you want a holistic gacha experience, go for Dislyte. If you just want something that's gay and furry, pick XXL Wufia. Super special thanks to our Patreon shoutouts, Wolfrix, Mkoides, Ganlafay, Churon, and Zora Child, the chicken noodle soup for the soul. Thank you all for watching, do be sure to like and subscribe. As always, this is your Fuuri signing out.